Good evening.
Are we live?
We are.
Oh, we are live, and it's Friday, the 13th of March. And, Friday the 13th apparently is always like not meant to be good. And the news isn't good tonight either, is it, Amy?
No, I'm
So,
afraid not.
yeah.
I wish we were
So,
coming with better news.
yeah. So hopefully, everyone who's watching is aware, will know that this week the MPs considered the amendments that the Lords had made on the Children's Wellbeing in Schools Bill. And unfortunately, we are not that much better off. There's only one amendment which they dropped, which we expected they would, because it wasn't the government amendment, it was a Conservative Party amendment. So they definitely voted that out. But the one that's in its place is not that much better, is it?
So there are four new amendments that I can see that are going to have an impact on this bill. The first of the amendments that they all tend to be very hyper-focused on at the moment is the alternative to the social media ban. So rather than a total social media ban of all children under the age of 16 being unable to use any social media, they are now proposing that the Secretary of State for Education will decide on which sites they will limit based on the functionality. They will possibly limit the amount of time that the child is allowed to have access to the internet, and possibly limit via a bedtime curfew. So all of these extra little bits could be tweaked and amended according to what the Secretary of State for Education at the time decides. So this is a variable difference, whereas the one that Lord Nash was proposing would have been a very stable amendment that everybody knew, the boundaries. This one, it's so variable that nobody can tell exactly what it's going to look like, not even the Secretary of State for Education yet, because she's going to make it up after she's done her consultations and all her research, and then she'll come up with something.
I'm so glad we've got
Just,
Bridget to look out for our children, aren't you?
it's just all like,
Doesn't
we'll
it
make
make
it up
you,
later.
I'm just, our glorious leader, who will take care of our children for us. Perhaps she will come and tuck them into bed as well. But sorry, I am being a bit,
We do
I'm
have.
being a bit facetious here. But it is just, this kind of thing just is. It's not really workable, because
Yeah.
people will always find ways around it. And I think the problem is also that this is usurping the role of the parent. And
Yeah.
the parent being, what we should be encouraging is for parents to train their children how to use these tools correctly, just because it's a tool like any other, and a tool can be used for good, it can be used for bad, as I said last week. So just
Mhm.
like a car can be a good tool, but it can be used for bad, as we have had incidents in the past.
Mhm.
And the internet is the same thing.
Yeah.
And to not be thinking about how do we train our children to use these tools correctly and in a positive way. No, somebody external to the family now must make those decisions.
Yeah.
And it will require children's identity then being known, because
So
they need to know
the
their dates of birth and all
so
of
the
that, won't it?
yeah, so the problem we then have is that in order to access the internet in its entirety, there will be a requirement to pass an age verification test. So as part of the consultation, it does ask how we think that they can make it work, because obviously they are already very aware that children are lying about their age to get around certain social media sites before the age limitations. They know that ID can, be a little bit,
Mm.
Intermittent, because not everybody has a passport or a driving license. And so that then comes straight back to our old friend, digital ID,
Exactly,
which
yes.
will likely be what they suggest as the only safe way to
Yes.
prove that you are an adult and that you aren't under the age of 16. So the default will be that you will have a limited internet unless you have that digital ID to allow you into those adult sites
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Facebook, WhatsApp, Discord, Pinterest, Instagram,
Yeah.
TikTok. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
there's so many sites that are going to be affected just by the functionality of having an algorithm or having content that is reactionary based. So if
Yeah.
you have to like the video or you have to comment on the video, then that will also be taken into account. So YouTube is also another one that could
Yeah.
be limited by
Yep.
Bridget Phillipson.
Yeah, and I see that we've got a comment about young campaigners. If they limit or ban social media, it could impact the younger campaigners. And that puts me in mind of the fact, haven't they done a thing now to lower the voting age to 16? Has that
I
happened?
think they're talking about it. It hasn't
Yes. But
actually
it's interesting
occurred.
that they want people they want to move that age because obviously it would benefit the this current government maybe to have younger voters. So they can trust them to vote, but they can't trust them to use the internet. This, it just doesn't
It's
marry,
really
does it?
concerning because a lot of what they were discussing in the Lords was about trauma from using the internet or being bullied using the internet. And yet at the same time, they were also saying that it was their only way to stay in contact with their friends while they weren't at school. And it seems like there's almost this like conflicting information, and all the MPs were saying we really need more time to talk about this because it's such a
Well,
big thing
well, I think that's
to
the problem,
suddenly
isn't
add
it?
to the end of the bill before it's
Exactly.
about to be made law. It's not been
Mm.
in from the beginning, so they haven't gone through the same process of hashing it
Scrutiny.
out and
Yeah.
discussing it as they
Yeah.
have the rest of the bill.
Yeah. No, exactly. And this is it deeply, deeply worrying that they've thrown that in. It could probably even be its own bill in some ways
Yeah,
if they
it
wanted
really
to have
could.
proper
But
scrutiny.
just before we move on,
Mm.
the benefit of one of the amendments that's been brought in and accepted is the EpiPen law. So
Mm.
it will be law that every school will have to have an EpiPen, and that will help to prevent
For
children
children with
with
allergies,
allergies
yes.
now.
Mm.
So
Yeah, I mean,
that is something good,
it's like
but
having
considering 99% of the bill is bad.
Yeah, it's like having defibrillators, and that can actually be written into policy. It doesn't really need to be law. It can be, that could be something that is promoted in schools as good practice, because times change as well. So I was just going back to those when I spoke about the amendments. I was talking about Baroness Barron's amendment, which was thrown out, and that was the one which was that any child who had ever had any of this, like social services involvement, section 47 or whatever section, those ones.
A child in
Yeah.
need or have
Yes.
ever had
So
a child protection plan, and
yes.
that has
So
been thrown out. That
yes.
is a good
So
one.
that's been thrown out, but the one that is still there is a similar one where it's if they've ever had in the last 5 years. So
Yeah,
basically, that's the Labour, the government's offering, which Baroness Barons went that much further. So it's still there. It's just there's a 5-year limit on it, but that's still not good for many, many children. It's
yeah.
still
I mean,
not
it
a good
doesn't
amendment.
include the child in need and all the extra like suspicious, like marginal, sniffs with social services. So
Mm.
it is much better to only have it within the last 5 years
Yeah.
than the full hog.
Yes.
But
And I
the other bit of the bill that they've changed is the school uniform
okay,
branding.
but in terms of home education, that's not going to really that doesn't impact us. So of course we're kind of like, well, that
No, I was just trying to get through all
yeah,
4
yeah,
of them before we run
yeah,
out of
yeah.
time.
But
So
I'm
they did,
mainly concerned with because
yeah, they didn't discuss any of these, because as far as they're concerned, the home education section is a done deal.
well,
The
it was
rest of it was
proposed.
taken up with the social media conversations
Yes,
and talks about the EpiPen and the branding of
yeah,
school uniforms.
yes. But because of course all those home education amendments had been at the end of with the voting in the House of Lords, they'd
Yeah,
already voted out anything that wasn't the government's except for Baroness Barons.
yeah.
So basically, because those are government amendments, the MPs have accepted them because it's a government amendments, which is a real shame. So they didn't get debated, didn't get scrutinized, didn't get pulled apart, and that's a real shame.
Mm.
So that's the news on the amendments. And then what do we have next, Kat, from that? So yeah, obviously, so this is that an article on the MPs rejecting the Lord's amendment, which meant that there's a much more harmful amendment in our eyes, anyway, that Amy mentioned. And there are things that people can do about this one. Is that correct, Kat? Um, so we've got a government consultation on the social media ban, and the Big Brother Watch, I think, has got some support for that, a guide, by the looks of things. I've got a question quickly regarding the amendments there. Does it include if you've been referred to social services and or if you've had a family support worker via early help?
No, it's only a Section 47 or a child protection plan.
Okay. Yeah. So where there's been some investigation and an order of some sort has been granted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that is a slight improvement. And I think it's also because the government minister was recognizing they didn't have the resources to deal with every single child that had ever had a brush with social services.
Well, also, child
Yeah.
in need is a voluntary thing.
It
You don't
too,
have to
and it
be on a
involves
child
children.
in need.
Exactly, and it often involves children with special educational needs or disabilities that are have the Section 19 to make sure they get their support. Okay, so coming back to the survey on social media by bigbrotherwatch.org.uk, there's a guide here to help you answer this. But I really, really strongly suggest that anyone who is a parent in the UK, anyone, not just home educators, anyone, because this for every child, every family is going to be affected by this. And it is important to get as many responses to this as possible. Now, the links to this will be provided in the comments underneath the video. And you will also, if you subscribe to our Substack, which is !Substack, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, asking my boss there. Okay, !Substack in the comments. You will be sent the link so you can go and find our Substack and go and subscribe. And then all of this information, all of these links will appear in your inbox on Monday morning. All the news, all the links, and more. So we've got loads more. I mean, they keep throwing this stuff at us. It is
But
really,
just
really.
as a bit of a caveat, when you're filling out this survey, please bear in mind that if you're filling it out for the teenager, ensure that the adult completes the first few questions, because when it asks for the age, it needs to be the adult's age, and then the adult completes the first few questions before allowing the child to answer the questions. And you can say no to providing your full postcode.
Yeah.
So you don't need to feel that you have to provide all of this extra information. In fact, we looked at some of the small print, and it says that they will be sharing the data more widely. So the more that you can fill this out anonymously, then that is better for everyone's safety and security wise, because it does ask some very personal questions.
If I can, so I want to just finish the conversation on this and I want to go to comments again. So, this is a very important consultation. A child can fill it in, a teenager. Is it children or teenagers?
Teenagers, adults that are
And professional.
directly in guardianship or parentage of the child. And then the third category is a professional or a member of the public. You can also access the PDF where it gives you the questions for an adult and an email address as an alternative to completing it
Yeah.
via this option.
Yes, because
there's no back button. So
yeah.
it's very important that if you want to take the time to think over your answers, that you use the email option.
And the thing with the email is you can then put things in your own words. You can express yourself in your own words. And if you find it difficult to do forms like this, so please go and check it out, and please share it with every single family member, every single friend. Share it on your social media platforms. Share it everywhere, because if this passes, it has huge ramifications for our children. What we do need to do as adults is to show up for our children and make sure that we are giving them guidance on these things, so that the government isn't going to step into the gap that we leave as parents. Now, I want to just go to comments briefly.
There's quite a few.
Someone has mentioned that, she says, since the new bill came in, her local council of whole do not visit her home to check her daughter's welfare. I need to tell you that the bill has not come in yet. It has not passed. The bill is still going through the Houses of Parliament. It hasn't passed. So it sounds like Hull are behaving themselves according to the current law. Their behavior may change when this bill becomes law. So just to put that out there. Okay, so Jodie's mentioned that she's completed the parent and child survey on the social media ban. And she's mentioned, and Amy's also said, is that the questions are extremely leading. They don't really,
very biased, and there's some school-centric in there.
They're not giving like a wide range of answers. They're kind of leading you to kind of agree with them, but agree with them in a way that makes you feel like you've got a choice. And are those questions where you just doing like multiple choice, Amy, or are they
some of the questions are multiple choice? There are 3 questions that are very school centric, whereby you can't answer the question because you aren't attending school. So you can't say that you use your phone during class because you aren't in class. And so lots of people have had to put don't know as an option because there isn't an option for them. So it's not very fit for purpose. It doesn't represent everyone. And we have put in a complaint both to the government about their practice and how they are conducting this consultation, but we've also sent in a complaint to the Children's Commissioner, and any child can do the same thing. They can send a complaint to the Children's Commissioner using her website and her contact form.
Yes, and so Jodie said she used the other box where there was one. So when they didn't say, when it was the school-centric ones, I'm assuming, and where there is a box to respond, because I don't know if you get many free.
There's a few of them.
Then you can use that opportunity just to say, I do not agree with the social media ban or whatever. I do not agree with. Just make sure that's very clear. Your views are very clear there. Because a lot of these consultations and surveys are now read by AI as well. So you make it very clear message for AI to understand and convey your thoughts. So
and don't use the F bomb. Okay,
no,
just saying.
Just keep it
be respectful.
Keep it on point, and yeah. But I'm sure many people will be tempted to. But just for this instance, let's not. Okay. So we do want them to think that the people out there are sensible, good people that want good things for their family and for the country, really. Anyway, so moving on to now this one. is yet another very annoying thing that I'm
The
trying to
government
just
have dreamt up.
trying to keep it nice. Yeah, and this is all about let's come together and be a lovely, cohesive, and resilient United Kingdom, and you know,
Resilient.
and not cause trouble and say bad things. But those home educators, we need to be awfully worried about them because they're part of the problem of creating extremists and whatever. There is a little bit is there, isn't there? I'm sure you're going to find that paragraph for me now. How inappropriate is this to throw the poor old home educators under the bus again? Um, and this is partly what contributed to Keir Starmer's comment in Hastings in his speech, and it appeared in Hansard as well. When was it last week? The what's his name? Had it in front of me. One of these many
School
tabs.
linking projects to bring children from different backgrounds together and help them forge friendships and understand what they have in common.
Yes, I've lost that. Yes, yeah, it was Steve Reed, the minister, who made a comment about this. What is it? A protection? What protect what matters? Protect what matters. Do you know what? I did some research this week in my very, very tiny bits of time that I have. I did a bit of research into propaganda and the kinds of words that are used. And it was really interesting because some of the stuff on propaganda was like in World War II, where they, I gave up my man, for the cause. It's like, they use these words to try and like protect what matters. So if you don't want it, you don't want to protect what matters. That's what they try and make you feel like, which is like the children's well-being in schools. But well, you don't want children's well-being, and this is what they do. This is what they do. So here in this paragraph, it says they want to have a £500,000 investment in community-led school linking projects will bring children from different backgrounds together, helping them forge friendships and understand what they have in common. And tougher oversight of home education, including the first ever mandatory register of children not in school, will ensure no child misses out on the shared values and experiences that bind communities together. And this makes me so mad I could spit because our
We
home
will
ed
hammer
group,
you into
our,
place.
our home ed group, those kids, we had diversity, we had friendships across this, there was nothing wrong with how our children were interacting with one another and making friendships and sharing values and experiences. We did not need the government to tell us how to share values. And this really, really makes me angry because it's this assumption that we are isolated, this assumption that we want to radicalize our children, we don't want them to mix with other children, and we have to keep smashing that
But
every
this is
chance we get.
almost, for me, this is almost gaslighting.
It is
because
gaslighting, yes.
because we've been at the forefront of every community for generations now. We've been guides leaders, we've been mayors, we've even got a lord. We're not really in the background. We are pillars of the community. We always have been the ones that put ourselves forward and volunteer, and we are part of the community. In fact, we tend to lead the community. So the fact that they are actually trying to turn everybody against us, that's something very cynical that we have to be very aware of.
Yeah. It really does make my blood boil. And I think that at the moment, I'm not quite sure if there's anything we can do about this other than write some strongly worded letters to our MPs again, and particularly regarding this, and to show, maybe demonstrate in that letter, to give your MP examples of how in the home educating community that we actually we are reflective of the diversity in the country, and actually that I think some of our kids have better relationships than children in school with the forced friendships. I mean, we've had some wonderful encounters over the years in our home ed groups and very enriched by people from different cultures and backgrounds.
But the thing is it's always good when you've got a good local authority, but I'm seeing in the comments here from Christopher that actually there are some local authorities that are making it really difficult, and they're lapping up everything that the government are saying here. So when we're looking at what the government are publishing, we need to be very aware that there are people who believe this, that will listen and will act on it. The fact that this bill hasn't even become law yet, and we're seeing local authorities implementing it, is just, it shows that they don't know the process and they don't know the law.
And I want to raise something
Makes it
here
more
again.
embarrassing.
I want to raise something that we've mentioned in the past, and that is that we do know that a lot of government stuff is being influenced by Humanists UK, where they are whispering in the ears of, they are lobbying politicians to, and saying about home education being a problem, religious schools being a problem, um, all of these kinds of things. And in fact, so Humanists UK, they actually have an article where they're basically saying how they love this policy. They love what the government's trying to do, and that's probably because they're behind it. So I can't say for certain, but that's where my money would be going.
They were mentioned in the early stages of the bill being introduced in the House of Commons, so I wouldn't put it past them, if I'm honest.
And they are very opposed to home education. They believe that parents are really bad for wanting to raise their children according to their own values and things like that. And so just be aware of that, particularly if you are a humanist and you are a home educator, that it actually doesn't seem to go together in terms of the way Humanists UK think. Okay, now on a similar vein, we've had this article from Finland where the security chief there, and I have been told he's quite unpopular. He's not exactly well liked, but he's also saying that if you make kids go to school, you'll combat radicalization. So once again, you can see how this agenda, we find it's not only in the UK that they believe this. France has also had their issues with this, where they make these accusations that home educators are trying to, because here it says in Finland the law mandates compulsory education rather than compulsory school attendance, allowing parents to educate their kids at home. Radical anti-society or hateful teachers could not be imparted to young people. Basically, if you ban home education, is what he's saying. So, we do.
I'm glad we don't need to listen to him, though, Juliet.
I know, but we do need to. When we see this creeping into the narrative and the rhetoric of our MPs, we do need to call them out on it. We do need to get the positive stories out there in the media. We do need to spread the word that this is not, are they going to tell us that all these people that went rushing off to like Al Qaeda or whatever, that every single one of them was home educated? I can guarantee they weren't. And so if people are going to be radicalized, they're going to find ways to be radicalized.
I don't think any of them were home educated, if I'm honest.
Well, I wouldn't sort of go that far, but I'm just saying is that you tend to find, home education will be represented for the minority it is.
Yes.
It would not be disproportionately represented. It would be represented by that, by the sort of stats. So
I mean, the good news in Finland, at least, is that the government are not listening to this person. And as you said, he's not very well liked. Yeah. So at least the government in Finland are saying they're not going to introduce a homeschool ban. Yeah. And that then leads us also on to France as well, who have had some good news and a glimmer of hope.
But I want to quickly mention the story we spoke about last week, which was in Italy, where this family that were living off grid, where basically they've been targeted because they live differently and they don't follow the norm. The kids are fine, kids are healthy, their family are, close knit and have good relationships and everything, but because people don't like different.
There's been some incidents in the news as well, Janine, So yeah, they're quite fresh. They're quite new,
Yes.
and we know
Yes.
that school isn't very safe.
Yes. So this is a comment from Janine about how many home educators have gone and done mass shootings. So that I think the thing is we've got to keep these conversations going, keep promoting home education for the positive
Mm,
thing that it is,
mm,
and
yeah,
really just try and get people to just keep a sensible head on their shoulders,
yeah.
because it's they're just all gone a little bit mad. I don't know what they've been putting in the Kool-Aid for them, but
But when you've got a government that is so hell bent on preventing home education, and then you have in France here,
so if we
Kat,
want to go to that positive story, Kat,
yeah,
so
in
some of you
France.
will know that in France they've made it very, very, very difficult for
Yeah.
families to home educate.
But
But
then we have
here's
this
this,
wonderful example from the courts.
yes, so this a young man who's doing extremely well from his home education background. And he's preparing for his French baccalaureate at home, and he's very, very self-disciplined. And he seems very, very self-assured. They've got lots of quotes from him, and he says he isn't stressed yet because he's working hard. He works, but and actually, I can say about my own son,
Mm,
who was extremely studious in preparing for his A levels. Because he knew what he wanted to achieve, he knew where he wanted to go, and he
mm,
would get up in the morning, get his laptop out, and he would start working, and he would work
mm,
until he
mm,
would take a break now and again, but he worked basically
mm.
until till bedtime
But
because he
this
wanted to do well.
Yeah, this family, they didn't get permission to carry on home educating. They've carried on regardless, then obviously been taken to court, and the court has looked at the fact that every time they were visited, it was obvious that he was having a suitable education. He was thriving. And
Yes,
so the court have actually sided with the family and made it very clear that home education is a step, it's almost a step towards the freedom of philosophical education,
yes. Now,
and
in
they're saying it has a place in raising your children and raising a family. So they are actually defending this family, which is quite nice.
well, the thing also with France is that they will say that home education is legal, but if you want to home educate, you have to submit an application and you have to justify the request. So that's in right at the end there, and you've got to say if it's for medical reasons or because they're like a good sportsman or artistic, that they're doing specific
A gifted child,
gifted,
yeah,
yeah, or like maybe they're a child actor or
yeah,
something, which means a lot of families are being turned down because they're not considered to be
in that
candidates.
criteria.
Yeah.
It's quite a hard criteria to get into as well.
Yeah, but it's lovely to see this is a nice positive story that's gone out in the French news, which hopefully helps to highlight within that the French scene or whatever society that children can thrive in when they're home educated.
Yeah.
So I think that is it for our main stories. We have a long list of other things you can go and read for your bedtime, just before you go to bed tonight, your bedtime reading. But if you
Mhm.
get the Substack, you can save that for Monday. Um, it really is quite overwhelming, some of the so many things that are coming out. I don't know if there's any consultations or anything we've missed out at the moment, Kat, if you can think of any that we need to highlight. Yeah, Jodie's just reminded there was a stabbing in a Norfolk school this week, in a school here. And thank you, Christopher, for your lovely comments. I must say we're all flagging a little bit, and actually we can't stop yet. We still have a job to do, and we still have to keep on and maybe hoping that something happens to stop this bill in its tracks. But at this stage, it looks like it will take a miracle.
Mm.
Okay, Jodie's reminded the digital ID consultation. So that's one to go and complete. Um, yeah, there's just so much coming out. I don't. I know a lot of people who don't follow politics and don't follow what's happening, and I'm just wondering what's going to happen when they realize what's been passed. Yeah, what's going to happen when
I
it
mean,
dawns on them that something's passed and they didn't know about it, didn't do anything about it.
yeah, I was saying this yesterday. We were shouting about the pupil registration regulations for almost a year, and it wasn't until they were implemented that people suddenly took offence and realised that actually the implications of it coming in were much worse than what we could have even dreamt of. And I do hope that when this bill goes through, that it isn't as bad as we fear, and that there is some common sense left in the British people. But yeah, spring has sprung.
Yeah, yeah,
Have
there
you
is
seen all
some.
the daffodils? It's beautiful.
Yeah, there is that positive thing. It's been a long, long, hard, cold winter with and fighting this bill, and let's hope better days are ahead, and let's hope that some common sense wins out ultimately. But I think that's all our main headlines. And so we will be back on next Friday at 8 p.m. with more updates, maybe, hopefully, some nicer ones than tonight.
Yes.
Thanks everyone for joining us and for your comments, for participating. Just to say, there's still people asking, "What is this bill about? We've never heard about it." Please continue to raise awareness, continue to promote home education for the positive experience it is. Continue to share those good stories, and re-educate. Educate people out there. It's all we can do right now as well. So that's kind of where we are at with things. Take care, have a good weekend, and enjoy the spring weather. Bye, all.